Okay, hello everybody. My name is Justin Villery. I am with the Committee of 70, and this is another edition of the Philly Youth Vote Takes Over Studio C70 in advance of the November 3rd general election. This morning, we're very excited to have on State Senator Vincent Hughes of the 7th Senatorial District in Pennsylvania, and he is going to be interviewed by Mr. Roy and his students at SLA Beeber here in Philly. And so without further ado, I just want to turn it over to Mr. Roy. And Senator Hughes, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Justin, for facilitating this for us. We really appreciate having this opportunity to speak to some of our elected officials. And before we get into any of the policy questions that some of the students have, I think a lot of the students were just generally interested, Senator Hughes, in your background and what led you to pursuing public office. And why are you running for re-election now?
Okay. All right. Well, that's a lot, man. Mr. Roy, that's a whole lot. So I'll just do the short version. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing all right. I know this is a crazy time. I know it's really crazy. I'm guessing, like I do, we have some folks out there who are just like, like not really quite behaving themselves. But we're going to talk through that and get through all of that. And we'll just do the best we can to get through what is a very difficult time across the board on a whole bunch of levels. But talking is important, and I'm glad to be here to spend some time with you. In fact, I jumped off another Zoom that I was on with a bunch of business guys and women and folks who help support businesses, especially in struggling communities and Black and brown businesses, because quite frankly, at this moment, this is more important. So I could tell you a lot about my beginning. I will not. A couple of highlights. There's like, how did I get in politics? It's like the funny story and the serious story. The funny story is absolutely true. I'm a West Philadelphia guy. Born and raised. If my wife lets me, I'll die in West Philadelphia. That's how much I love West Philly. So the funny story is I was president of my first grade class, president of my second grade class, president of my third grade class, president of my fourth grade class. This is very true, okay? Very true. At the Lee School. It's in the record books. It's in the history books. And then my girlfriend ran against me for president in fifth grade, and she won by one vote. One vote. All the girls voted for her. All the guys voted for me, except one guy. His name is Stanley Cousins. I'll never forget this. I probably need some counseling because of this, all right? And it's never left me. So he voted for her, and that was my girlfriend, and she won, and then that was the end of our relationship, okay? Because she started going out with a sixth grader named Omar. So what you gonna do? It's very true story. So that's the funny one, but it happens, as I said, it happens to be true. The other side, in terms of become as an adult, I got involved in politics through my union, AFSCME, and I spent a lot of time in the early 80s working on political campaigns and organizing political campaigns and doing the grunt work that has to be done to electing folks to office and advocating for issues and things of that nature. And then someone said to me, and I got connected with a bunch of other young people who are very active and involved in politics as well. It was great to walk in a room and see about 30 or so young people, from high school students to college students to some just out of college, in their mid-20s. And out of the 30 or so, the oldest person there was only 35. And I know that may sound like old to you, but it was only one person that was that age. But I was like, wow, young people doing stuff, involved in stuff, active in stuff, engaged in stuff, making a difference and getting involved and running for office and not backing down, but pushing forward policy issues that are important. I like this. I like this environment. And then one of the guys who was a state rep at the time, his name is Shaka Fatah, he pulled me aside and said, you know, you need to think about running for public office. You need to think about running for state rep as well. And I never thought about it. And it was the audacity of putting that idea in my brain that caused me to run for state representative in 1984. I ran a race against a Democratic incumbent. I am a Democrat. I ran against a Democratic incumbent in the primary. Guy was in for 18 years and 16 years at that time. Out of 13,000 votes cast, I lost by 1,000 votes. That April 10th, 1984, another issue that I probably need some counseling for. Never forget that. I took one day off, April 11th. I went to the campaign office on April 12th, all suited up and, you know, and everybody looked at me and said, well, why are you all dressed up? The campaign's over. You lost, okay? And I said, wow, okay. Because, you know, in campaigns, you can win and lose. And I never thought about losing. So we just decided that we want to run again. And we decided to run again, and we pretended, quite frankly, the way we ran for the race in 1986, we spent 84 to 86 pretending like we had won, pretending like we had won the seat. The only thing that we didn't do was go to the state capitol and vote on bills and collect a legislator's salary. But we serviced the community, was in the community, deeply helping people out, solving problems, being advocates for issues that were important. And then in 1986, I won. I won by 500 votes in 1986, which is again a message that every vote counts. Every vote does count, and the rest, as they say, is history. You can go to my website, senatorhughes.com. Senatorhughes.com is the website. And there's a lot of other stuff that's in there about my background, my history, and everything like that. And the things we're focused on. I went to the Senate in 1994. I serve as the Democratic chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which in Harrisburg, in the state Senate and state government, that is a position that is, the Appropriations Committee deals with how the state spends its money, about $34 billion, and what priorities and where the money goes. And you know, is education a priority? Is job creation a priority? Is climate change a priority? That kind of stuff. I have to help shape those priorities on behalf of the other Democratic senators that are there. That's my role. And so I could, like I said, I could go on forever. I'm not going to do it. There's a lot that we've worked on and gotten done over the years. Which would take up far too much time. The really important thing is to have this dialogue, and I'll do my best to answer any question that you might provide and try to see if we can get into some provocative conversation to help get your brain thinking. And I just want you to remember one thing as we start to go into the questions. You have much more power than you realize. You have much more power than you realize. And I want you to believe in yourselves. I want you to encourage yourselves. I want you to encourage each other. I want you to be supportive of one another, but I want to make sure that you do not walk away from your responsibility and walk away from your power. All right? They go hand in hand. Power requires responsible uses of it. And when you're responsible and you're fully engaged, power winds up coming to you. You have a lot of opportunity to influence change. And the first part of that will be voting, but the other part of it is educating yourself about all the things that are going on. So there you go. That's Vincent Hughes in a very short amount of time. All right.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator Hughes. My students had some great questions about different policy positions, but one thing we haven't had a chance to do in class yet is look at the structural elements of this level of government. We're focusing on national government first. So if you could just briefly talk a little bit about the role of the Pennsylvania State Senate, that way I think students will see sort of the position that you have and how you relate to a lot of the questions they have regarding education, criminal justice, and the like.
Got it. So state government. So picture what you see. I hate to say it this way, what you see in Washington, picture that with the Congress the US Congress and the US Senate, and then the president, and then the Supreme Court and the whole entire court system. Picture that at a state level, in this case, Pennsylvania. So we have 50 state senators, 203 state representatives. Each senatorial district is about 255,000 people. 255,000 people. Each legislative district is about 62,000 people. That's the size of the population, and they're all geographically spread out all across the state of Pennsylvania. And the best way to say it is we make the laws. We make the laws for the people in Pennsylvania. We make all of the state-related laws. We make, including state spending. And as I said earlier, that's about $34 billion every year is direct spending of state resources. Now, we manage other dollars that come in. We manage federal dollars that come into the state, which then we have to send down to local counties and municipalities like Philadelphia and Montgomery County and Delaware County and Pittsburgh and Harrisburg and places like that. And so that $34 billion winds up growing to probably close to $70 billion. That is our responsibility to kind of manage. Of course, it comes with some restrictions and some guidances on how it gets done. But that's basically what my job is as the chairperson of the Democratic side of the Appropriations Committee in Harrisburg. So in the Senate. So the Appropriations Committee, because of its responsibility in terms of dealing with state budget, is different than the Education Committee. It's different than the Health and Welfare Committee. It's different than the Agricultural Committee. It's different than the Finance Committee and all the other committees that exist in Harrisburg, because it deals with the budgets of everything. And so instead of being an appointed chairperson, I'm elected by my caucus members, my colleagues, to assume that responsibility, which carries greater weight. But like I said, we deal with everything in state spending. I mean, state government deals with, in many respects, deals with education funding as one of its principal areas of focus. Most of the criminal justice reform laws that have to get addressed at the state level. It's the state that determines a lot of the laws as it relates to the criminal justice system, not at the local level in the city or the county, and not so much at the federal level. It really is at the state level. It is the state that helps drive, for example, healthcare policies, especially mental health services and things of that nature, managing money that comes in largely from the federal government. All right. We have 4 big universities and 4 big state-related universities in Pennsylvania. Penn State, you've heard of. University of Pittsburgh, you've heard of. Temple University, you've heard of. And Lincoln University, historically Black college and university, one of the oldest in the nation. Those are what we call state-related universities. Collectively, they receive from the state of Pennsylvania about $800 million every year to run their operations. In return for that appropriation that they get, they have reduced tuitions for Pennsylvania students. So I just call on some names here: Tamir and Elena and Diamond and Madison and Jewel and Sierra and Michaela. And see, I shouldn't have started calling names. I apologize. If you decided to go to Penn State, or if you decided to go to Pitt or Lincoln or Temple, you could, as a Pennsylvania student, you could go to those students and pay a reduced amount, as opposed if you were from Camden in New Jersey, or if you were from Newark or New York or Ohio or Baltimore, Maryland, or some other state. And so they would have to pay at a higher rate because they're not Pennsylvania students. So we basically appropriate money to these institutions And what we get back from them is a reduced tuition rate for our students, for our constituents, for you all, okay? And so that's just, again, I could go on and on and on. The state budget is at least 1,000 to 1,500 pages long, and I won't go through all of that, but that's in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Great. Thank you, Senator Hughes. Got a question from Kanaya. Kanaya, would you like to, you want to unmute yourself? You can ask your question.
I see Kanaya. What's up, Kanaya?
Hi.
I can't see you. Where are you, Kanaya? I can't see you.
I'm right here.
I see your forehead. There you go. Now I see you. Okay.
One of the questions that I had was, how will you engage in the things that's going on right now in the Black community?
Well, there's a lot of things that are going on right now in the Black community. The pandemic has wreaked havoc for small Black businesses. All right, shops are closing up, and some of these shops may never reopen again. So one of the things we did to try to get some financial assistance to these shops is we passed we put a program together in Harrisburg that was largely written in my office to get these businesses direct grants, not loans, direct grants to try to infuse some dollars into some of these small businesses. You know, the businesses up on Haverford Avenue or Lancaster Avenue or 52nd Street or places like that. And many of those businesses got about $20,000 in a state grant, totaling over probably a total of $225 million, all right? It's never been done before in Pennsylvania, and the way we structured it, it's the first time it's ever been done in the country. So we're trying to get money in that space. We're trying to get an expanded support for testing, COVID-related testing, especially in Black and brown communities. You may have heard of the Doctors COVID Testing Consortium, headed up by Dr. Ala Stanford, which has received national acclaim. We're trying to get them some financial help so they can go ahead and expand their testing program so we can deal with COVID. On the issue of the police piece, which we're all trying to struggle and wrap our brains around, Walter Wallace. It's like, I mean, you can see that we want to reserve full judgment till the report comes out, but quite frankly, you almost got to accept your eyes, okay, what you see right in front of your eyes. There was no need to shoot him. There was absolutely no need to shoot him, unquestionably. Other tactics could have been utilized to deal with someone who was suffering from a known mental health problem, okay? Known mental health problem, and so there was really no need. So in the immediate, justice has to be pursued through the legal means, through the court system. It's going to be very important that the public pays close attention to that and demand justice, but demand it in a way that is not destructive, okay? And stay really focused and don't turn away to deal with something else in the pursuit of justice. But then we got to deal with this whole issue of reforming how we do policing. The brother had some challenges. You know that, Kanai. You've read that. You've seen that. Okay, had some challenges. There should have been some mental health professionals that responded to that crisis during the course of the day, to try to get him some mental health support and deal with this issue in a way different than how it was dealt with by the police, okay? But we've been dealing with this major problem of defunding human services, you know, psychologists, behavioral health professionals, nurses, and things like that for decades now, and the system is really strained. And when the COVID came in, that really shut down lots of funding. So we got to work that piece in. And of course, we're still waiting for an answer why the police did not have tasers and other kinds of equipment like that might have been a vehicle to prevent should have been a vehicle, would have been a vehicle to prevent that from happening. And so that's that. The other piece is we got to support protests. We got to support advocacy. But we cannot embrace tearing up of communities. Okay, you know that. We all know that. We can't wrap our arms around that. All right, we got to support peaceful protests. We got to encourage that, but we can't embrace tearing up. Okay, when you long story short, Kanai, when you tear up the Rite Aid or the local pharmacist on Lancaster Avenue or Upland Way, there's a senior citizen that can't get access to her prescriptions, okay? Or mom or dad who can't get access to their blood pressure medication, or just regular goods and services. There are people, when a place is torn up, there are people who can't go to work and they need that job. You know what I'm saying? They need that job. And we need to be in the business of building up and not tearing up. We got to embrace protests, but we got to say no to tearing up. And there's a couple other pieces that I want you, Kanai, and everybody to understand this. Some of the tearing up, a lot of the tearing up is coming from folks outside of the city who just want to tear up. And they're encouraging folks to tear up. We've seen numerous confirmed stories about folks coming in, laying bricks down and other kinds of stuff down. I mean, you saw last night, they stopped a car, an SUV last night full of explosives, dynamite and all other kinds of stuff, all right? And they're coming in from other communities to encourage violence and disruption. And this is a national pattern that's happening in cities all across the country. It's been something that has happened for decades. They call the phrase is agent provocateurs. You should Google that, all right? And maybe your teachers can teach you a little bit about that. They call agent provocateurs, and they're sent in by someone else to cause mischief and mayhem. No one in the community who lives there wants to see the tearing up. No one. But folks are prompting that and edging folks on to, in fact, tear up. So we got to be responsive and seek justice, listen more and respond more, okay? Call out certain things that need to be called out, all right? But the final piece is, it's very interesting that some of this is happening right at this time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days before the election, right? Very interesting that a lot of this disruption is happening 5 days before the election. And those of us who are involved in the political space understand that the person occupying the White House, his pathway to victory is through chaos and mayhem and disruption. And there's a lot of us who believe that this is contributing to his strategy to try to maintain control of the White House. So Kanai, I'm sorry to give you such a long answer, and I apologize for that, but I know it's heavy on your heart, and I think it's heavy on the heart of all the other students there. Understand this, it's heavy on my heart as well. Can't sleep, can't rest, can't think clearly to try to deal with these problems. And so talking to you is kind of helping me as well. Hopefully it's helping you, but it's definitely helping me as well. So sorry about the long answer. That means I'm gonna have to stay on for more than 30 minutes, Ben and Matt.
Senator Hughes, thank you so much. This is a big topic of conversation in our class on Tuesday, because we don't meet on Wednesdays. And a lot of students, when they were giving some questions to me for you, it had to do with issues related to what you were just speaking about. So I think it's something that I know our class is very interested in trying to make sense of. I wanted to give
and so a quick history lesson. And I'm sorry, Matt, I apologize for that.
no worries.
But a quick history lesson. If you go back in the history, in the 60s and the riots in 1968 and that whole time frame right around that period, there was stuff that was going on. Legitimate protest was being usurped by, again, that phrase, agent provocateurs, to try to stir up excitement to try to achieve another agenda. And so, as I said, we've been through this before. There are baseline issues that got to get addressed. Walter Wallace Jr. deserves justice. All right. His parents don't want this tearing up. His family members don't want this tearing up. All right. But he deserves justice. The justice doesn't come by tearing up. It doesn't come that way.
Thank you. Sam, did you want to ask your question now?
Where's Sam?
Yes.
What's up, Sam?
Hi. So my question is,
What's with the Batman thing in the background, Sam? What's the Batman deal? You Batman kind of person? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Dark Knight. That was my favorite Batman. So.
My question is, how do you plan on helping Pennsylvania recover from the current COVID-19 crisis?
We have a press conference today that I want you all to watch, okay? At 11:30, I'm having a press conference today. It's a good teachable moment, Mr. Ben and Mr. Matt, okay? A good teachable moment at 11:30 today. I'm having a press conference. Go to senatorhughes.com, and there's a link somewhere there that'll link you into the press conference. You can watch it as long as you're not studying something else, okay? Another class, Sam. And we're talking about spending $1.3 billion that is just sitting around in Harrisburg, and it's designed to help people, and the people are in charge in Harrisburg. And for factual basis, this is not political, but for factual basis, they're Republicans. They're in the majority in the legislature, okay? So they're running the deal, all right? And so they're just letting this money sit there without going out to help small businesses, without going out to help folks get protections from being evicted out of their home or evicted out of their apartment or having their mortgage foreclosed on. That money is there to help these folks, and they're just sitting on it. So at 11:30 today, Sam, you go senatorhughes.com, as long as it's not disrupting from someone else, from another class of yours, all right? And you can watch how we talk about why it's important to spend this money and get this money out to the people right now. People are suffering, and I'm pounding my table, I apologize. People are suffering because they need help. Can I just ask about it? They need help, all right? And we're gonna have to take some tough, so that's one thing. You're gonna have to take some tough medicine, and I hope this election goes the way it needs to go, okay? I hope this election goes the way it needs to go, because right now we got to deal with this pandemic the right way, okay? Everybody needs to be masked up. Where's my mask? I got a mask around here somewhere. Everybody needs to be masked up. Where's my bling mask? I got a bling mask. Hold on, I gotta show you my bling mask, okay? Hold on, I'm not that far. I'm in my house right now. So everybody can see my bling mask, all right? VOTE, okay? My wife designed this. Y'all know who my wife is, right? Y'all did your research? Matthew, you didn't have them do their research. How do you not tell them who Mrs. Hughes is? Oh, teacher gets a demerit. Okay, you got to go on to detention or something else. All right, so my wife is a woman by the name of Shirley Ralph, okay? Some of you will know her. Anybody know the TV show Moesha? Kanaya, you familiar with that? Sierra, you don't act like you know that TV show Moesha. What's up with that? All right.
I know that show.
You know that show? You know D on Moesha? That's my wife. Okay? Shirley Ralph. All right. So, and Matthew, you get a demerit. You got to go in detention for not telling the kids that. All right. All right. So she designed these masks. Okay. And said we got to get masked up and deal with this thing right. All right. You know, this is, I mean, because we can win on this. We can beat this thing. All right. We mask up, deal with it right, slow down the infection rate, let the scientists pull together the vaccine and the right medicine, the right treatment, and we can win this thing. We can beat this thing. We can beat this thing. But we're not getting the right leadership and we're not getting the right resources to help get this thing done right from you know who down in Washington, D.C. He lives at 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza. It used to be 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but it's 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's where he lives, in the White House. All right? Y'all are smart. You're SLA Beeber. Y'all very smart. You know what the deal is, okay? So that's what we got to do, Sam. So that's, again, another long answer from Senator Hughes, but that's kind of like what I do. But senatorhughes.com, see it at 11:30. Don't be late, okay? Don't be late. And everybody's got to vote. If you are registered to vote in this class, you have got to vote. Mandatory. That is your homework. Vote. I'm acting like I'm the teacher now, Mr. Matt.
No, it's the more they hear it, the better it is. And it's and if you're not going to be 18 in time to vote, talk to your parents, talk to anybody you know who's going to be over 18. Do that anyways, but encourage everyone you know who's eligible to vote to vote.
Yes, Kanaya, I married a real one. Yes, I did. All right, I sure did. True diva.
So Senator Hughes, a couple of students, Anaya and Jewel, they both had questions about education funding. And you had spoken earlier about higher education with public universities in Pennsylvania. But these students were looking more at like public schools and particularly the schools here in Philadelphia. So what can we do at the state level to help with public schools throughout Pennsylvania?
Raise hell. Okay? I see you see me getting all up in the camera. Raise hell. All right? Don't tear up, but raise hell. Okay? The issue, okay. Short story, short history. You all have studied the important Supreme Court decision in 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, right? You all have studied that, right? You know that history, you know that story, okay? Got to be equal, all right? This Pennsylvania Constitution says schools must be funded equitably, must be funded equitably, all right? It's in the Pennsylvania Constitution. Must be funded equally, must be funded equitably. However, the way that the white supremacist mindset is to keep people down, underfund their schools. Okay? Underfund their schools, deny them education opportunities. So the Brown versus Board of Education decision was great, huge, important, one of the most important in the history of the country. It didn't address the equitable funding issue, okay? It didn't get to that equitable funded issue. It says, yeah, treat people fairly, but it didn't dig all the way down to get to the equal funding issue. So it's been a struggle since then to try to get the balance in order, all right? So do some quick history. I wish I knew how to put links on the chat here, but I don't know how to do that because I'm not that strong technologically. But a study just came out A study just came out like 2 days ago, but I believe the Education Law Center, someone who you should have do one of these kind of sessions with you, and they'll be glad to do it. That talks basically and says the discrepancy in funding is about $5,700 per child. All right, in some cases even broader. Like if you were in SLA Beeber and you were to go 5 miles, would it be 5 miles west to Lower Merion High School, right? Lower Merion High School, where Kobe went, all right? They're spending about $10,000 more per child over there than is being spent at SLA Beeber. So a class of 30 times 10,000, that's my math is what is that? $300,000, I think. Okay. So that's how much more they're getting than you're getting. And so the way to change this is a court case that's going on right now. But the other thing is, why is voting important is that we have to change the makeup of the legislature to get enough state representatives and enough state senators in place so that we can change the funding formula and drive more money towards schools that have historically been disadvantaged. That's why voting is important, because on Tuesday, as people have been voting leading up to Tuesday, we're not just voting for President of the United States of America. We're also voting for state senators and state representatives who make up the body that can change these policies. Okay? So Philadelphia is going through this. Harrisburg is going through this. Reading is going through this. Pittsburgh has a bit of a problem. Chester is going through this. A lot of folks all across the state are having this problem, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It's a bad policy, and it's morally wrong. All right? So again, as I said, raise hell. Okay? Make some noise on this, because it's fundamental. It's fundamental to the success of any society that everybody be educated at the highest level possible. And you can't do it without the appropriate money. You should take a trip to some of these suburban schools.
Yeah, we do like virtual field trips where we kind of
right.
look at what it's like inside, and
it's if I was a teacher, I would make the teachers, if I was the teacher or the principal teacher, right? I would make the teachers do that virtual. Go to Upper Dublin High School virtually. Go to Lower Merion High School. Go to Plymouth Whitemarsh High School. All right. Now I represent Upper Dublin and I represent Plymouth Whitemarsh. In Upper Dublin High School, they've got brand new high school, costs $160 million to build. They have a swimming pool with water in it. Okay? A swimming pool. They have statewide swimming competitions at the high school. All right? They have a meteorological center with 8 47-inch flat screen TVs that are hooked up into the Penn State Meteorological Center, and I believe the Westchester University Meteorological Center, and they can determine lightning strike. They study meteorology. They can determine lightning strikes in a 300-mile radius. Okay? And when I say that, I say that so that you understand what your school deserves to have, should have. All right? You should have access to all of that. But it's because of centuries-old discrimination that still has not been fixed. And we need you to have a part, whatever you want to do in the rest of your life, be a part of the struggle for strong education and equitably funded education. All right. Your teachers, Mr. Roy, is Mr. Marks one of your teachers? Are you a teacher, Mr. Marks?
I'm a student teacher.
You're a student teacher.
Yep.
So Mr. Roy needs to be paid the same amount of money as the teachers are paid in Upper Dublin High School. Don't you think, Mr. Roy?
Absolutely.
There you go. I knew he wouldn't say no to that. Okay. All right. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So make that part of your struggle. Make that part of your fight, because I sure do need you. We need your help on that one. Huge.
And Senator Hughes, kind of like a follow-up to this question, talking about education, obviously that's important for a number of reasons, but it does tie into preparing students for the jobs and careers that they want to pursue afterwards. And one of my students, Jaden, asked about plans that you have and that the Pennsylvania state government has for supporting jobs, particularly as young people are entering adulthood and getting in a position where they can begin pursuing a career.
Mm-hmm. So again, funding is relevant to all of this. One of the things that we have to do is, let me not get too technical. What we know is every year, more and more jobs that are created are requiring more and more training and education and skills. Okay? The newer jobs that are coming online are requiring more and more skills and more education and an increased ability to do some deductive reasoning, to do some analysis, okay? Which is what your teachers are supposed to help you with, and I'm sure they do a good job with that. Try to figure stuff out based on asking the right questions, no matter what the circumstance is. And what are some of the job producers, what they're saying is that, all I need is a person who can think and show up on time and do the task that's been provided for them. And that I will train them and teach them how to do the work that's specific for their position. So those critical skill sets are extremely important. And we need to do more of providing those in classrooms across schools, all across the state. In fact, all across the country. Now, the thing we really got to get adjusted to is something that the pandemic has revealed to us. Pandemic has revealed to us that businesses can be forced to be shut down as a result of a pandemic, and as a result of a pandemic that shouldn't have been in place. And the pandemic has revealed to business owners that the business owners need to be thinking about how they can utilize technology and not necessarily a human who can get sick. You follow me? So if a robot doesn't get COVID-19, human can. And the nature of businesses, at least the unenlightened businesses normally try to figure out how they can minimize risk and minimize costs. And so if they can figure out a way to get something done through technology, which the technology can't get COVID-19, right? So they don't have to worry about the risk of losing an employee, losing a worker. So what we need to be thinking about is reimagining ourselves as people who have the capacity to create the technology, all right? To be ahead of the conversation, all right? And it's our job as society to, I think, again, it goes back to the education and training piece. Let's do a couple things. More investments in education and training. And also looking at the world a little bit differently. There are the jobs that are out there. That's one thing. But there is the work that needs to be done. Okay? And that's two different things. The jobs that are out there, but then there's the work that needs to be done. So there are jobs that are out there that they do stuff. Maybe they, maybe they teach, maybe, but there's work that needs to be done. For example, we're dealing with climate, and we need to restructure major parts of our society to deal with the environmental hazards. All right? Why don't we talk about, and you've heard this conversation, everyone has heard this conversation about the poor status of our school buildings. All right? They need to be environmentally safe. They need to be cleaned regularly. They need to be turned green and sustainable. Okay? I got a congressman calling me, but I'm going to ignore him because I'm talking to y'all. Y'all are more important. Okay? So, utilizing the school as a piece. So, but we need people to do that work. But then we need the money to pay the people to do the work. So there's the work that needs to be done, and there's the jobs that already exist. I submit to you that we need many more people to do the work that needs to be done. And then we need to figure out how to compensate these individuals for that work. For example, you all know, you've seen the research, you've got great teachers, you've seen the work, you've seen the study, that our oceans are filled. At the bottom of the ocean, there's layers of plastic laying at the bottom of our oceans. Think about that. Our oceans are as beautiful blue as they may be. As beautiful blue as they may be, they're severely polluted. And there's plastics all over the bottoms of our oceans, okay? That needs to get cleaned up. But we need people to do that work. And then we got to find the funding streams to pay the people to get the work done. So that's the work that needs to be done. And if we identify and prioritize the work that needs to be done, we can then create the jobs and expand the job pool and make sure that people are paying a livable wage that they can support their family and have great benefits to go along with it. So I said a lot, but maybe the most important thing is to look at this as the jobs that are out there, but then the work that needs to be done. All right? And driving funding sources to expand the work that needs to be done, which then creates more jobs. And then it becomes stuff that you and all you would love to do. You would all love to be a part of making our environment safer and cleaner and fighting climate change and fighting for criminal justice reform and stuff like that. We just got to find the resources to make it a priority. Long answer. Oh my goodness.
Senator Hughes, I really appreciate everything you're sharing with all of us. I think we have time for maybe one more question. And so you've touched on a lot of the specific policy issues that the students have been sharing with me. One thing that I think a couple of people are interested in, kind of looking at the big picture here of Pennsylvania, it's sort of the challenges of a state like ours, where you've got big cities like Philadelphia, one of the biggest in the country, and Pittsburgh, but then you have a lot of rural areas, and it seems as if people in the different parts of the state have very different interests. And I was wondering, as somebody who's representing one of the more metropolitan areas of the state, how difficult do you find it working with people from, say, rural parts of Pennsylvania, where it's, people that have very different things in their mind?
So it's really hard and really frustrating. But you have to make the effort, you have to reach out, you have to talk to folks, and you have to do a lot of listening, a lot of listening. Communication is, and again, I'm sure your teachers will tell you this, communication is more listening than it is talking, okay? Which, I just shut down my own theory because I unfortunately do a lot of talking, all right? But so you have to do a lot of listening. And the thing that is so frustrating about dealing with some of my colleagues from rural communities is because I know that their constituents are having the same problems in from the rural portion of Pennsylvania, are having the same issues and same problems that we're having in urban Philadelphia or urban Pittsburgh or urban Harrisburg. And it really is frustrating to help them understand that the things that I'm fighting for, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, cleaner communities, a well-funded education system. People in rural Pennsylvania or rural parts of the country, if you're living in rural communities, you're in bad shape. Think about traveling 30, 40, 50 miles to go to the doctor. Think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Think about that. And that's the reality in many portions of rural Pennsylvania. Or you have an accident and you have to go to the hospital. The hospital is 20 miles away. It's not like where SLA Beeber is. Somebody have an accident at the school, you go right up to Lankenau, or you go right down to Penn, 20 blocks away. Many of these folks are 20 miles away. And it's really, so you really have to reach out and reach beyond your own community and beyond your own vision and try to connect with other folks to try to figure out a way to find common ground. It's an important phrase I want you to walk away with. Where can we find common ground with other folks who may not look like us and who may not be from the same communities or similarly situated communities? I find that in most cases, folks pretty much want the same thing. They want good schools for their kids to get an education. They want good jobs that pay well and have solid benefits. They want safe communities. But the politics sometimes get in the way and reshapes their thinking and how they see the world. So it's hard, it's tough, but always got to be in the mindset of reaching out beyond your own vision, okay? And try to figure out to see life in someone else's, from someone else's eyes, someone else's glasses, someone else's reality, okay? Oh, and that's, that's important in policy, in public policy, and especially in the democratic kind of reality, but that's important in life too. I mean, I guarantee you, your greatest success in life will not be from what you do for yourself. It'll be for what you do for someone else and how you help out someone else. All right. That's where you'll achieve your greatest success. That will be the most rewarding part of your life. How you help somebody else. Be the best you can be, take care of yourself. But your best self is when you're helping someone else. Guarantee. This comes from the president of the first grade class of the H.C. Lee School, who is now a state senator.
Great. Senator Hughes, thank you so much. As a teacher, I really appreciate getting somebody who is working within the government speaking to students, so it's not this abstract concept, but we see some of the real people who are in there doing the work and giving the students a sense of the role that they can play. As in a democracy, it is up to us as citizens to participate in our own governance. So I really appreciate having this chance to talk.
And if the world comes back to some level of normalcy, when you graduate, I may be looking for a couple interns or two, or 3 or 4, to work in my office before you start off to college. All right. So, Mr. Roy, it's on you.
Mind. No, that's
right? And I pay my interns. Okay, I pay my interns, and then they become part of the family, and then they stay with us forever, and then I can't kick them out at a certain point. But all right, everybody, we're proud of you. Proud of you. Keep doing, keep fighting, keep believing. Don't give up. Don't give up, Don't stop believing. Don't stop hoping for a better world. Fight for that. All right? Use your brain. Use your brain and use the power that you have, because it's much more than you realize. I believe in you.